But how do you know, once again, because people don't really share the hard things that are happening, they only want to talk about the good stuff that's occurring. So how do you know if you're actually on track or where you should be or keeping up as a good CTO in an organization?
And that's where a bunch of judgment comes in, right? You do need to be able to have a look at things objectively as much as you can and go, where should I be? Where's reasonable to be? What are, outrageous expectations and what are straightforward expectations? I mean, one of the things that I often see is that people end up, as CTOs, as leaders, in meetings, and they're talking a lot. They deliver a lot. They give their opinion a lot. How much time do you spend listening and really picking up from the rest of the room? And when I mean listening, I don't mean listening to work out what you're going to say next, but listening so that you actually hear what they're saying. Listen so that you can understand their position, their thought process, and figure out how you relate to that and how you can help. Because I think a lot of times if you can figure that bit out, then you've automatically got a bit of an orientation. You know roughly where you are, you know roughly which direction you're facing in. And that is a big help to understand, okay, this is actually where I am. This is where I'm based. Because a lot of the time, if we spend our time talking and if we spend our time sort of putting our opinion out there, we are doing a lot of signposting, but it might be disconnected, dissociated with where we actually are, where we really stand, and which way we and the rest of our team are facing relative to us.
Isn't that to some extent like a prerequisite to getting to a CTO level, that you are already good at listening to some extent, or no?
Not necessarily, right? I think a lot of people end up in a leadership role as a result of being really good at executing. And executing and leading are two quite different roles. As we spoke at the beginning, it's an uncomfortable shift because it is basically a career shift. It's an identity change. And so when you've gone from that point of having all the answers, being the smartest voice in the room, to then suddenly being the person leading what's going on in the room, what you need to do and what others look to you for changes. And you either change and adapt and you understand where you are and then you have that awareness you're speaking about, or you kind of brazenly carry on trying to be the smartest voice, trying to be the leader in the room, and not necessarily being aware of what the room actually needs and what is not being said.
So, I mean, on that note, so maybe you're explaining this, but you talked a lot about, I think, kind of like escaping the execution trap, right? Not being the executor in a sense, which sounds sort of bad, but not being the person who's executing on tasks and getting them done. What does that mean for a CTO, and what does it mean for founders and startups who have CTOs? What does a great CTO look like who escapes the execution piece? Even, especially once again in today's world where maybe everyone's becoming an orchestrator of agents, not a doer of code writing.
Yeah, I mean, what it really looks like is somebody who's supporting the team who are working for them, and then also supporting the person that they are working for. So it's about being, I think about it a bit like the org chart, right? We typically think about there's you and then the people who report to you underneath you, and then the people that report to them underneath that. And it's sort of, you're sat at the top of this pyramid. And the reality is when you know somebody's got it figured out, they kind of acknowledge that it's actually the other way up. They're like Atlas with the world on their shoulders, and that's their team that they're supporting, they're spending time with. They are listening and they're asking questions rather than telling and directing and saying what other people should be doing. And that, listening and asking questions is that support piece. We know from situational leadership that in order to be able to get people from the point where you're telling them what to do, directing everything they do, to them being autonomous and having that ability to, and the sensitivity to understand what they need to do and that they've got the skills to get there, it requires you to support them through that. Giving them space to fail, giving them space to learn on their own, but also giving them the stretch, the goal, the intent, so that they know to push themselves and that it is safe to do so. And it sounds easier than it is to actually do it. And I think that's one of those things where once you see a leader that's got that figured out, you kind of look at their organizational chart and you want to draw it upside down. They're supporting their leaders supporting the individual contributors working for them. And so if you sort of see that as an inverted V, then you're looking at somebody who's figured out how to carry this. And in times of a mega change, like it's going on at the moment, all this noise around us, the disruption, the expectations laid upon us, the key thing that you see, what does that support actually look like as well? It's when you're not leaving people behind. Right? There's this really old expression, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together.